All right, everybody. So our group has decided to create a filtration and purification system in the South African area of Limpopo. It's a province in South Africa. Um, Limpopo is actually one of the poorest regions in Africa, and so this is something they're in need of. Our goal as a group and our vision was to promote the quality of water in Limpopo and do it in a way that is very cheap, inexpensive, and it's a way that the villagers can use the resources that are all around them. So we wanted to try to create a way that people in Limpopo can, use anything that's around them that they can access to there in their homes and in the villages that they're in. So that actually was kind of a barrier for us when we first started this project, was to find a way to make it inexpensive for them and also for us. When we first started, we had a great idea. We thought it was going to work perfectly, but then we figured out that one of the resources we had probably was going to be a little expensive for the people living in Limpopo, and probably on our end as well. So we kind of had to go back on the drawing board and figure out a way to make it a lot easier for them. And we were able to do that. So we feel that this system that we have is going to be something that's going to be in everyone's home there in Limpopo that they can each use and learn very easily. And as I said, Limpopo it's a poor region in Africa. Actually, so 83% of the people in Limpopo know that they have, the water isn't very clean for them to drink and to use. But to live and to survive, they still use that water. Many of them, boil the water. They use bleach. And as we've found out in this class, that even boiling water doesn't clean it completely. We don't know if it actually gets to the right point to where it clears out all the bacteria. So even boiling water isn't the best system for them to use. 28% of the water in Limpopo comes from the mountains. There's pipes that are used to pump that water from the mountains, and it doesn't get to every village. People have to travel 50, hundreds of miles just to get that water and then travel back for them to use that water. 60% come from rivers, and 12% come from boring holes or wells that have already been drilled, or just natural holes that they can gain access to water. So when using water from the rivers or from lakes or streams, the problem that arises for these villagers is that water is used from the animals as well. So it's shared with the natural life, and that's where bacteria comes from. And studies that have been done, there was a study done from the University of Venda and the University of Virginia. They did a lot of research in the region of Limpopo and found that E. coli is one of the highest bacteria that's in the water there in that area. And so this causes a lot of intestinal problems there for the villagers. Most villagers suffer from diarrhea. That is a high disease that is there in that area, which leads to malnutrition, and so a lot of people are suffering in this region from malnutrition, diarrhea, E. coli poisoning, which just affects everybody and can cause death as well. What was great about our group and the system that we were able to use is that it is very cost effective. And I just wanted to read, this is from the World Health Organization. It says, a recent view of the literature sponsored by the World Health Organization concludes that simple, socially acceptable, and low-cost interventions at the household and community level have the potential to significantly improve the microbial quality of household water and reduce the risk of diarrheal disease and death, particularly among children. So that's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to get this into their homes and have everybody use it, have it be easy for them to access and to learn. And that's what I felt we did as a group. And it's a system that everybody can use. And once we leave that area, that they'll continue to use it. For us to gain access to this area, we have met with a young man whose name is Jake Sagiers. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And he lives in Oakley, Idaho. And he actually served a mission in this part of Africa. And he, we've gained his trust, and he has the trust of the people there in Limpopo already, and they're in South Africa. And he actually has a partnership with the hospital there in Africa. So that's going to be our way of getting in there, gaining the trust of the people there in Limpopo, and teaching them and showing them this way to purify and get water that they can, not only drink but use, to bathe in for sanitary uses. And hopefully we can, just make a little bit of improvement, little steps here and there to improve the issues that they're having right now, especially with E. coli that's affecting their children is the biggest thing. Most research has been done with the children. And like I said, our goal was just to make something very low, inexpensive that can be in every household there in Limpopo.
Okay, I'm Laramie Turner, and I'm going to talk about the filtration system itself. So right here is our filtration system in the mini form. So what we did to show a mini of our filtration system, we went ahead and took a milk container and then cut off the top so that we could make our layers for filtration. So what we put at the very top is rocks. Rocks will take out the larger sediment, different like leaves, anything that's in the water like that. Right below that is a really small gravel. So gravel's really good because it'll start taking out the smaller impurities such as like dirt and different things. And then right below that we have sand. So sand filters out fine impurities, organisms and particles that collect in the top layers of the sand. And then as you filter through that more and more, it builds up a biological zone that will by itself filter out bacteria, viruses, and parasites, which will catch a lot of what's in the water right now in Africa. And then right below that, we put charcoal. So charcoal is really awesome to put in filters because it's activated carbon, which helps remove contaminants and impurities, which is utilizing chemical absorption within the charcoal itself. And then right below that, some people put cotton balls and different things, which also help catch onto the last bacteria and different things. We put coffee filters, which works perfect for us. You can also use clothing, mesh, cotton, and it holds back the carbon and lets the purification water go through. And as you can see, so this is the water that we put in about 5 minutes ago. I'll go ahead and put some more in right now, just so it can filter as I'm talking. And as you can see, it's not completely clear. So you're supposed to run it through at least twice. So you're supposed to let it run through at least twice. And then on the second time, it gets clearer and clearer each time. So this is after the first run. As you can see, it's already it's not completely clean. It still has a tint to it, but the dirt's not in it. And it doesn't have any residue left in it. So this is our system that we decided to use. So you pour the water in the top and have it caught throughout the device until it reaches the bottom. The bigger the device, it's going to take more time. That's why we did a small scale one, so that you can see exactly what our system is with filtration. Filtration is used to take out larger items all the way down to debris, down to bacteria and smaller items. With cloths, it is best to fold it multiple times. That way it can go through multiple layers. Coffee filters, we use a few, so that's just not one filter, it has more. That way, the more layers there are, the more contact it's going to come in with the water. Therefore, the more that's going to be removed from it. The smaller the fibers or the filter you can find, the more bacteria and viruses you can remove from the filtrated water. So this is the best system that we decided to use. And after experimenting a couple times, this is the one that we found worked best for us. And I just dropped on the ground. And so that's pretty much our complete filtration system. And this is Kevin.
All right, so what we're doing is we want to really go through purification of water. So something that we need to take care of is, as you saw, we have the filtration. What we liked about the filtration, just like Laramie and Jim have explained, is that it's very cost effective. There aren't a whole lot of resources for the people in Limpopo. So we needed to find something that would be cost effective for them and resources they could actually use in their daily lives. So what we could do with things like soda bottles, things like that, or the way we used was a milk carton. Those are things that we can use as normal resources. We can recycle companies, things like that. Are you more willing to donate that kind of thing for for resources like that, especially for water for purification? So that's just another resource we could use it for. And they could use the other materials around them as well. They could use it as sand, grains, dirt, whatever they may have around them near their local villages. Those will work as well. As Laramie explained with the coffee filters, we use that as our mesh. What we were thinking was something that would be logical for them to use is possibly things that maybe get donated to them, like clothing. They can rip up strands of clothing, use that as their filters, put that on the bottom, and that would be their cloth filter, if you will. So those are resources that we thought would be economical for them. They're cheap and effective, and something that they could really afford, and wouldn't be too hard for them to get a hold of. Now, with the purification, what we need to do is we designed something that we could basically, after you put the water through the filter 2 or 3 times, we designed this system. Sorry, it's the best drawing. We're not exactly computer fancy people. So what we have is a system that you have the spout right here. It's going to have a chain. So when you do the chain, you can pour the water in, and it's going to go down to the bottom of this jug. We're going to have a 100-gallon tank. It's going to be made of steel. And what you're going to have in the middle is just a separate column. It's a separate cylinder. And so the way this works is that this will basically be setting up in the sun. Now, it takes a while for it to heat, but the way the purification works is that the water will evaporate, and there'll be a rock on top of this plastic. Well, we're thinking like a tarp or any plastic material that they could use, stretch wrap, things like that would go on top. So the rock is on the top here, and the rock takes the heat from the sun, causing the water to go towards it. So when it evaporates, it goes to the top. And when the water collects to the top, the clean water that they'll be able to use for drinking water will go down into the clear cylinder, and that'll be the water worth using. And water that has any leftover bacteria, virus, things like that, with the extra weight, it goes back down into the cylinder that they don't want to use. So that'll be the water that will be left over. And what we decided to do was we decided to have a system, because it would be harder with just sun. It would take too long. We used, as we learned out in the class throughout the semester, we designed, you could have a rocket stove underneath this. So we designed an extended valve on the bottom, which would be the release for the clear water. With the 100-gallon tank, it would take a while. So with the fire stove or the rocket stove, it would help to evaporate and speed up the heating process. With that, they would have access to clean water more frequently, as well as the idea that we liked would be they could have more water storage. Rather than having to haul water constantly, they would have the more of a chance to just have water storage. So they could use it when they needed it, and if it was a drought, hot season, anything like that, they would be able to have that as backup and hopefully use that as more of as a resource as well. And so we designed the whole thing being made up out of metal, and we figured out a company that we would do this would be Turner Incorporated. And they design and manufacture things out of steel and metal, and they would be the ones in charge of designing this for us and creating it and then donating it. The charges to get over there would be done by Electric Connection, which would be a company or corporation that would help pay for the shipping of getting the product over to Limpopo. Sorry. And with that, they would have clear water, pure water. And with a 100-gallon tank, it could last up for 5 families in a village, and it would help with them all to contribute and add water whenever they need to take away, anything like that. So they would always have water as a resource.
So something with this also is with the rock on top, how that helps a lot is that, so the water that's clean will evaporate up, and then all the water that's evaporated, like we know, sits on top of like the wrap, just like if we heat something then put it immediately into a container, all the evaporation comes up here on top. Well, the rock will help it to come toward the middle because it's weighted, which from there it'll drop into our clean container. So that's how it goes and evaporates and falls in. Anything else?
And as we talked about, the people, you really rely on water there, just as we all do, but it's harder for them as they don't have the luxury of just having purified water as we have out of our taps. And so just as we talked about, Jake would be the one to help show them how to introduce this to them, help show them how it works. And since he already has the trust of the people, it can really help to have that chance of teaching them about the infections and things in their water. And he would be our way in to help install this and instruct it to them to show how that it would be effective and beneficial to them.
Okay. So we understand that we have to take an educational approach as we do this, as to show the community that they need this change and that it's important and that it is affecting their health and it's affecting their families and their children. So we need to educate them on health and the concern that we do have for them and their family. This is important because it's a huge concern and it's affecting their whole livelihood. It's just not a one component of their life. So through this and the help of Jake Sagers and many other resources that we have found to help us get our resources and get them over there, we are excited about this step in the right direction for Africa and Limpopo province. And we are excited for our sponsors, and we can't wait to hear back about our project plan.